Right, so welcome to today's webinar. It's self-care for the busy, lazy, and exhausted. How many people are busy, lazy, and exhausted? I'm at least two of those things. I think my adrenals have come back just a little bit after medical school. So today we're going to talk about really the maximal things you can do for health. Minimal things you can do for health to make a maximal impact. My name is Dr. Vanessa Ruiz. I'll share a little bit about myself in the next slide, but I wanted to share the mission of Nurses for Natural Health because our organization is aimed at empowering nurses as healers, as entrepreneurs, as independent business owners, encouraging them in self-care, and also educating in the latest in natural medicine. So a little bit about me. My name is Vanessa, and I'm a naturopathic doctor. I have a private practice in the Integrated Mental Health Center in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm also the founder of Nurses for Natural Health, and I'm a self-proclaimed lazy and busy when it comes to self-care. Okay. So the self-care, when we think about self-care, we often think about, okay, I have to be really disciplined about this. I have to make sure that this happens. However, what I've learned in practice and with my patients is that it doesn't require discipline. It just requires the repetitive learning and reinforcement that if you don't do things that make you feel good, you will stop feeling good, right? And so self-care becomes less about discipline and more about keeping you in that high vibing state. I can't tell you how many times I've just learned this. I'm like, all right, I don't have to exercise. I don't have to work out today. And then I end up feeling sluggish. I end up not being productive and just not feeling great. But when I'm exercising, I'm like vibing. I've got the endorphin rush and life feels good. Okay. So today, it's going to be a short webinar, and really the goal is because I want to share with you the things that I've learned over time and that I've shared with my patients. What are those meaningful actions that really make an impact on your mental, emotional, and physical health? And hopefully after this, you can get skills and tools that you can use and be able to decrease the time and energy that you spend on self-care. It's really self-care with efficiency. And these are some of the things that have worked for me. I work off of checklists. If I don't make a checklist, it doesn't happen. I also make sure that I schedule it. So every day between 10 to 12, I'm exercising. Because if I don't schedule it, it doesn't happen. Okay? And I always front load. Thankfully, I have a business where I can kind of manage my own time. And what I've found is that my mornings are really, really important for my mental health and for my overall health. So I front load. What I mean by that is everything gets done mostly in the morning, and I work with the energy that I have. Okay. In the morning, I know my brain is ready to turn on. It's excited. It's ready to be able to do cardiovascular activity and more high endurance stuff. So everything that I want done, I try to do in the morning. I found that like between 2 to 4, I end up not having the ability to really concentrate, focus, and be as productive. So I try not to work against my energy. So try to front load. So try to get all those things done in the morning when you can, or really, this might be just paying attention to your energy and seeing when that's its highest so that you can do the most impactful things then. And if you're trying to kind of create all these checklists and these goals, these health goals, make sure that they're micro, right? Because oftentimes we think about this huge, tremendous goal. And really the most important thing is that you just chisel away at it. You take small bites out of the whale, right? So maybe if, let's say, for example, you usually have a 1-hour exercise regimen, and today it looks like it's kind of busy, doing 7 minutes or doing a short burst is just as impactful for your health than doing the 1 hour. Okay. And simplify. And think of it this way. What are those things that really help you to feel good? Right? It could be just 10 minutes of movement. It could be just sitting down, taking some deep breaths. But write down all those things that keep you high vibing and really help you to feel good. And then you'll start to develop your own list. Okay. Ask for help. Okay, this is a huge thing for us nurses. Self-care means also self-advocacy. Okay? If the dishes are there and you're like, okay, I have to choose between the dishes and getting 20 minutes of exercise, is there somebody who you might be able to delegate that task to, right? Self-care is self-advocacy. Okay, as far as nutrition goes, I'm not intending to diagnose or treat any kind of disease. However, what I've found is that making sure that I kind of have this checklist of what are those most nutritious foods, right? What are those things that I want to make sure, the superfoods that I make sure I get into my diet, right? And Dr. Fuhrman, in his brilliancy, has created this acronym called GBOMS-T. And it literally has been burned into my brain because I share it with my patients too. But it's really the most nutritious things you can eat through the day. Okay? So you can make sure that you have some servings of this as you're eating, right? So incorporate that into your meal planning, your recipes. So if you can get all the GBOMS-T, you know that you've at least gotten the most nutritious foods. So what does GBOMS-T stand for? It means greens, berries, onions, mushrooms, beans, seeds, and tomatoes, okay? And so what I've done is I've kind of created front-loading the most nutritious breakfast I can think of, and essentially like an omelet with spinach, onions, tomatoes, and mushrooms. And that pretty much like just knocks off a few out of my list. Okay, so this is an example of GBOMS-T and front-loading. My boyfriend's always like, he's always like, what is for breakfast? And it's usually like everything in like the vegetable cabinet. Or like a protein smoothie with like vegetables in it, because I just want to make sure I get them in. Okay. Another favorite app of mine is called the Daily Dozen by Dr. Michael Greger. And he's pretty much simplified. It's very much like Dr. Fuhrman's GBOMS-T. The Daily Dozen app, essentially, if you love checklists like I do, and most nurses do, you can check off and see the progress that you're making. And it also, I love this part because it shares how many servings you should try to have. Okay, so if you can see, there's beans, berries, other fruits, cruciferous vegetables. And cruciferous vegetables are amazing because they really help the liver to detoxify. You've got greens, other vegetables, flax seeds, nuts, some spices, some whole grains, and then it even incorporates beverages as well as exercise there. So you pretty much, I think that if you follow this app, you've pretty much mastered kind of self-care. Oh, and just to note, you also want to make sure that you've got like a good mindset too, right? So you don't want to just do this app just for perfectionistic reasons, because that's not good for your mental health either. Okay. So another tool that I share with my patients is the importance of protein. We don't get enough protein. And the sweet spot is really about, for a woman who's maybe about 150 pounds, about 80 to 135 grams, okay? And that is actually a lot if you think about it. So the best way that I can kind of teach you how to be able to incorporate enough protein is to do like every 3 hours having some form of protein. So quarter cup of trail mix every 3 hours, and you do that all throughout the day, and you'll be close to where your protein requirements are. And protein is so important because it helps, at least in the mental health field, it helps create neurotransmitters, right? So if you're not having enough protein, you literally don't have enough brain chemicals. It's pretty much important for every single biochemical function in the body. So this is also tricky for a lot of people, especially in Arizona. Are you getting enough water? And I tell my patients half your body weight in ounces of water, but that doesn't include if you're, exercising all day, if you're sweating a lot. So if you're sitting by a computer, just having a water bottle near you and then kind of marking as you go along how much water you drink. Okay? That just helps kind of cue you in to making sure you stay hydrated. And if you want to see if you're getting enough hydration, you kind of have to look at the water, the color of your urine. It should be kind of a light yellow clear, right? That means you're getting enough water. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, mindset is really important. If you're going to be doing the Daily Dozen app, but you're doing it with this intense perfectionistic attitude, that's probably not as good for your mental health. And so mindset is going to be really important. And so journaling about 10 to 15 minutes a day, that helps to create a good mindset. I've actually created a 21-day wellness e-workbook that includes daily journaling, and it also includes the daily health checklist as well as daily exercises, so that you can kind of have this seamless to-do list of maintaining your wellness or getting into the habit of wellness. And it's available only for $9.99 until the end of this seminar, so you can access it at this website. Movement is incredibly important. Okay? It's so important that you're not going to be able to really process or think without movement. Think about children who have attention deficit disorder and they're hyperactive. They have to move because it's actually required for them to learn. So when does the brain grow the most? It grows the most as you start to walk, right? Because you're creating all these motor neuron connections. And then after that brain grows, then guess what follows? It's actually language, being able to talk, right? So movement is an incredibly important part of language, of knowledge, of education. So I tell my patients that 10 minutes of movement is important, but not just any movement, right? Because we could easily just like walk to the refrigerator. It's joyful movement. It's getting into your body. It's enjoying the movements that your body feels. And try to do this 3 times a day, right? So that puts you in a whole different mood. Okay. If you sit a lot, there are some really powerful exercises that you can do. And I do these just because I sit a lot on the computer, I'm charting a lot. And so eventually at the end of the day, I've pretty much become shaped like a chair. And so to be able to undo this, I do plank pose, a side plank pose, a cobra pose, which helps to kind of open up the trapezius, open up the pectoral muscles. I also do pigeon pose because after you're sitting, your hamstrings start to get shortened. And so the pigeon pose just helps to open up the hip flexors. It helps to open up the hamstrings as well. And then the heart opening pose, which is what you're seeing this in this picture. Okay, that just helps to open up all these things that are often kind of constricted when we're sitting. If you're a cardio bunny, there's 7-minute high intensity interval exercises, but only if you have cardiac tolerance. Like I wouldn't do this if you have a congestive heart failure, or I would ask a doctor first before if this is appropriate for you. But there are tons of apps out there that will guide you through a 7-minute workout. So spirit, okay, and this is really, in terms of spirit, I really mean connecting with yourself and connecting to kind of a greater force than you. Don't necessarily mean religion. And this is something that I share with a lot of my nurses that I coach and also a lot of my patients, because this is something that we as a society, we don't practice, which is grounding our body into our bodies, clearing ourselves emotionally and energetically, calling back our attention, energy, and focus onto ourselves, and then also creating boundaries. Okay, so if you guys will humor me, let's begin to sit in kind of a comfortable position. Plant both feet on the floor. And just kind of start to internally focus. You can place your palms, you can place your hands either palms face up or palms face down, up to you. And close your eyes or keep them partly closed. So the first part of this exercise is just imagining that your feet are rooted onto the earth and that they're plugged onto the earth and that you're being supported by the earth. You can almost lend your weight to the earth. So this is the grounding portion. Clearing portion is imagining that there is water cascading down from your head, down to your neck, shoulders, down your back, down your hands, down your fingers, down your legs, and down to the floor. Okay. And this water, it clears out all the stuff and the gunk that doesn't serve you. And you take a deep breath in and out. And the next visualization is calling back your energy. So imagine that your energy is like wisps of white. And as you call it back, you notice that the wisps of white are retracting towards you, and that you feel a sense of wholeness as you call back your energy. Oftentimes we think about patience and we think about our grocery list and all these different realities that are occurring. However, calling back your energy allows you to show up in those situations as whole and complete as possible. Take a deep breath in and out. And as you call back your energy, it's time to then begin to create your sacred space. So imagine that around you is a white bubble, and it can be as big as you'd like it to be, as thin or as thick as you'd like it to be. And in this bubble, this is your sacred space. And you get to choose what energy comes in and out of this place. And take a few breaths in and out to integrate these exercises. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to our session. Okay. So notice how that literally took maybe about 2 to 3 minutes, and how impactful that can be. Like, just notice how much you've changed from the last 2 to 3 minutes. When people do this exercise, they say they feel more grounded, more alert, more energized, more like themselves, more whole. So I hope that this goes to show that it doesn't have to take very long. Self-care doesn't have to be this big ritual and doesn't have to require a lot of energy. It just requires a lot of intention. Okay? And eventually you kind of get high off of self-care. You're like, oh yeah, I'm going to feel so good after this. That eventually you don't need discipline. Okay. So if you have any questions or comments, please email at contact@nursesfornaturalhealth.org. And to order your copy of the 21-day wellness workbook, you can access it at this website. We also have other certification programs like the certificate for restorative yoga, as well as the mindfulness practitioner program. So please join us in these programs. Okay. Thank you.